The Podcasting Dead is available on iTunes, Spotify, YouTube, and SoundCloud. Make sure to subscribe for more podcasts. And while you're at it, drop us a like. If you want to help support the channel and have access to extra content, secret contest, and more, make sure to search for us on Patreon. Patreon.com/thepodcastingdead.
All right, we're talking about the fact that one of the greatest, arguably the greatest Walking Dead villain may be coming back. But before we get into that, I'm Justin.
I'm JP.
And we're the Podcasting Dead. If you like Walking Dead content, consider subscribing to the channel. Hit all notifications so you get notified when we make a new video. And if nothing else, leave us a like. Helps out a ton. We'll give out some Patreon information at the end of the video. But for right now, JP, how excited are you at the chance that the governor might be coming back?
Dude, I'm pretty stoked. I mean, David Morrissey has said time and time again he'd love to reprise the role, and it looks like it might finally be happening.
It might, because as you know, if you've been following Walking Dead development, you know that there is going to be a spinoff show called Tales of the Walking Dead, or Tales from the Walking Dead. And what it's going to do is we've known they were going to bring back long dead characters and give us some origin stories for some, fill in some missing time gaps for others. And it's great fan service for characters because unfortunately with a show like The Walking Dead, you do lose some really good characters along the way. However, with a show like this, you get the chance to spend some more time with them. And to be honest, looking at the fact that, you know, we had these three or four Walking Dead novels. From what I read in comicbook.com, they're saying it was three. You had Rise of the Governor, Road to Woodbury, and Fall of the Governor. For some reason in my mind, I remember it being Fall of the Governor Part 1, Fall of the Governor Part 2, which would have been 4 books. But either way, we've got some great, and they're really good books. Now, the first one, Rise of the Governor, is the best, easily. However, it's got a very unnecessary twist at the end that we really don't need. But aside from that, it is a solid read, and I want to say I really want to see it on screen, but there are some parts in that book I kind of don't want to see on screen. We're talking comparable to like the Michonne rape from the comics, you know?
Right, because in the book it's the continuity from the comic book.
Right, it follows the comic. Even some lines are lifted right from the comic.
Yeah, unlike yourself, I have not read the novels, but from what you said, they're pretty awesome. And man, just anything to bring the governor back is A-okay with me.
And you might be wondering, guys, hold up, whoa, slow your roll. Where are you getting that the governor might be coming back? Well, we found this article on comicbook.com where Scott Gimple was talking about the show and said, quote, "We're working on something with one of the great Walking Dead." It says one of the, I guess he meant greatest. Grammatical error there, comicbook.com. "We're working on something with one of the greatest Walking Dead villains of all time, and it's coming together," he said during a Walking Dead holiday special, which I didn't know they had a Walking Dead holiday special.
Me neither.
I'm going to have to check that out. But, you know, we know that they've already done Here's Negan. Mm-hmm. So I don't think it's that. We know that there's an episode coming out with these, additional 6 for season 10 that's going to be Negan's backstory, which they said they've gotten right off the comic. So I'm excited to see that in action. Especially with Negan's Jeffrey Dean Morgan's real life wife playing Lucille. It's going to be interesting.
Yeah. I mean, The Walking Dead, in my opinion, kind of making up for, not a bad season finale, if you could call it that. A little lackluster, but yeah. They're definitely doing some great fan service going into the new year and building us up for that final season.
Now, don't get your hopes too high. Mine are, I say that very hypocritically, because my expectations are super high that it's going to be the governor. But also Ryan Hurst, who plays Beta, has hinted in interviews that we might be getting a backstory, which I don't see why we couldn't get both, but we might be getting a backstory on Beta, which I'm kind of one of those where I would like to see that. But Beta's one of those villains, I feel like I got enough. You know what I mean? Like, I really don't need as much more on his backstory. We know he was a famous country artist. We know that he had his demons. He ended up in a mental hospital, and that's where Alpha ended up finding. Like, for me personally, I've seen enough of Beta. I love Beta. Like that said, Ryan Hurst, Opie, always in my heart. And I loved Beta, one of my favorite villains ever from the show. His episode where he goes through Alexandria, very Michael Myers-ish. One of my favorite episodes from the show's entirety. However, I personally would rather see the governor's backstory because we didn't really get much on his backstory.
Yeah, I definitely would rather see like a governor, and not just like a little mini special. I'd love to see like a series, maybe a couple series, or a couple seasons.
Jesus,
rather.
if a show like Walking Dead World Beyond can get 2 seasons, surely we could get like a little mini 8-episode season of like Rise of the Governor. You know what I mean?
I think there's enough material to cover that.
Absolutely. If you start at the beginning of the apocalypse and show us, how he loses his wife, which he mentioned when he was talking to Rick that his wife died in a car accident. We don't know how true that is. I guess it's true. Maybe it's not. It's the governor. He's a deceitful bastard. We really do. We don't. In my mind, I don't know for sure if that's how she died, but. I really would like to see some of the governor's backstory, especially with like him and Milton.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, how they came to be buddies, and all that stuff. Yeah,
and I mean, because he talks about he knew Philip before all of this, and I don't know if that means he knew him before Woodbury or if he's saying he knew him before the apocalypse started. And if so, I'd like to know in what capacity they knew each other. Did they work together? Were they family friends?
I'm telling you, the best thing AMC could do, get the team from Better Call Saul, because they have sculpted such a great prequel series with that, man. I think that would be the team to really drive this thing home.
And bring Robert Kirkman in more in a writing role. You know what I'm saying? Like, pay him what he wants, but have him, if nothing else, like have him. I mean, I know they've had him as like executive producer and stuff before, but I mean, like really have him hands on. This is his character, his vision. He's, along with, and forgive me, it was Jay something. I can't remember the author of the books, but it was like with Robert Kirkman. So I take that as he was writing it and consulting with Robert Kirkman on like, should I go this route? Would the governor do this? Blah, 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 blah. If nothing else, man, give Robert Kirkman a more, passenger seat or shotgun with the crafting of this, but.
Yeah, I feel like, when the governor was in his heyday on the show, Robert Kirkman probably was a lot more creatively involved, so it only makes sense to, kind of get him back in it.
Oh, yeah. And now, don't get me wrong. When I said I don't want to see I don't need to see a beta backstory. I'm not saying I don't want to watch it or I won't enjoy it, but I'm going at it from the, if it's like the governor or beta, I'd rather see the governor's backstory.
To be honest, man, if we were going to get more beta, I'd almost rather see him like pre-apocalypse, like his journey as a whacked out country singer to the mental asylum. You know what I'm saying? I mean, I'm kind of like you. I don't need to see more adventures with him and Alpha leading up to them being whisperers. I'd rather just see him as a coked out country star. Like
I mean, I would take it because it's Walking Dead, but I would rather, if I had to choose between that and the governor, I'm going to go with the governor 100%. But I mean, like, some characters are better to remain shrouded in mystery. You know what I'm saying? Like, there are, like Beta's just, I don't know. In my mind, I don't want to humanize him. Like, I like him being this almost Resident Evil nemesis type character, just this big hulking brute. And we know he was which is interesting because in the comics, he was a famous basketball player, not a famous musician. And it is interesting that they decided to make him a country artist. But it was cool to note that the song he was singing in the episode where he plays his music to gather the walkers or whatever, in that town, it was written by Emily Kinney, who played Beth.
No, I remember you saying that now.
Yeah. Talented. She's one of those, man. She's a talented singer and apparently a talented a songwriter. But I don't watch The Walking Dead to hear her sing. Like every episode, like when Herschel would be like, Beth, sing me blah, blah, blah. And she'd start. So I'm like, no, my God, I'm going to get something to drink. Tell me when this shit's over.
Right.
I did not sit down and watch this episode to watch Emily Kinney sing. Not that she can't sing, but it's just The Walking Dead. I don't want singing. When Alden would sing the time or two he sang, I was like, oh, God, I don't want another musician trying to make it big on a TV show.
Yeah, it's kind of like when, what was his name, Sam Smith popped up on Game of Thrones.
Not Sam Smith. You're talking about Ed Sheeran.
Oh, right. I know it was one of those guys.
And he was singing around the fire, and you're like, oh, God.
Same kind of
I
deal.
felt bad for him, though, because he just made a tiny little cameo. It's not like they shaped an entire episode or a narrative around including this pop star singer. He just made a cameo in the show, and they ripped on him so bad, he, for a while, completely deactivated social media.
Yeah, I mean, it's not like he killed the Night King or whatever. Right. Which might have been a better choice. I don't know.
Just imagine him coming around the shape of you. But no, the governor would be my top choice because I miss the governor. I miss those days when The Walking Dead was just simpler.
Yeah, dude, and well, in a lot of ways better, but not that.
I mean, the last season or two have been great. Don't get me wrong, but the glory days for me of The Walking Dead really go from season 2 through about season 4.5. Like from that 2.5 season stretch is when I was like obsessed with it. You know what I'm saying? Like that's when I just like, well, if I wasn't watching it, I was thinking about it, and if I wasn't thinking about it, I was reading about it. It was, and like I said, it was simpler. It was a slower pace, but not. It wasn't like there was a lot happening constantly, but I don't know. It just was simpler. There were less characters. It was
the storytelling was a lot tighter.
Yeah, absolutely. Sure. That's a good way to put it. It was good. I really, and I'm not saying that anything before or after that isn't good. Absolutely not. We've had some wonderful, wonderful stuff happen, but still. I want the governor back. I thought he was a great villain. I would love to see more of Shane somehow. I mean, I maybe take Shane and Lori and show us their journey, starting with Rick in the hospital and realizing like they've got to, I don't know how that transpired, but it would be really cool to see like Lori and Shane and Carl's journey from Atlanta to how they got to the camp. You could bring back Dale. Sadly, the hardest thing about that is Steven Yeun, for some reason, just will not. Has no desire, he says, to come back to The Walking Dead. And I don't get it, but I'm not Steven Yeun, so I can't speak for him. I did watch that movie with him. What was it, Mayhem, where they're like, there's that disease that turns people like not zombies per se, but they just lose their minds, and it's him and the girl from what was that movie, The Hunted or whatever, where she was like with that family and I don't know. It was a weird movie. It was good, but it also Milton was in it.
Oh, no kidding.
Mm-hmm.
So they're basically in like a Walking Dead light kind of movie. Like they're not zombies.
In a way, yeah. It was a fun movie. It was enjoyable. But I don't know why Steven. It's like, dude, and they pay you money, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I can't say what he went through, but from what I've read, it's not like he would. It's not one of those stories like Billy from the Power Rangers where you learn they were throwing gay slurs at him the whole time and harassing him.
I didn't hear about that.
Oh yeah, Billy from the Power Rangers, man. If you read his accounts, he was treated like hell on the set for being gay. I hope that's not the case with Steven Yeun, but he doesn't seem to say that it was. It's just like I think it's one of those where it's like in his mind he's like, I'm an artist and I want to separate myself so I can be more than Glenn from The Walk. Dude, Edwin McCain, who wrote the song, I'll be, you know what I'm talking about?
No, I don't.
You never heard that song? You're crying.
Okay, yeah.
All right, he had that, and then he had one more song. He had 3 big hits, but the 2 that most people know is the I'll Be, and then what is the other one? I'll Be, and the greatest fan of your life or whatever. But anyway, so like I interviewed him and hung out with him for the radio station, a couple years ago. And like I asked him in the interview, as an artist, do you get annoyed when people want you to play like the same song or two? And he was like, dude, maybe I have a different perspective, but the way I look at it is like that song is a winning lottery ticket for me. It gave me fame, it gave me wealth, it gave me a whole new life. Does somebody who win the lottery put the lottery ticket up on the mantle and walk by it every day and go, stupid lottery ticket? He's like, I mean, do I get tired of playing it? In some regards, but at the end of the day, man, it's my key to success, so I'm happy to throw it out there. And he's like, I've played it so many times now, I can do it with my eyes closed. So, I mean, hell, if that's what people want, man. So, I mean, I know that's just one way of looking at it, but I do wish Steven Yeun would realize the fans love him. We loved Glenn. I would love to see him come back.
And we live in an age where everybody's reprising their classic roles. I mean, we were just watching stuff from Ewan McGregor's Obi-Wan series that's coming up. Hayden Pattinson Christian, whatever
Hayden
his name
Christensen is what I call
him. Right. Yeah, he's coming back as Darth Vader. I mean, it's a golden age for picking back up those roles that just made you famous.
Yeah, I mean, it's I don't know. I mean, on one hand, I've never been an actor, but I have been a musician, and I could see where like you write something and people people only want to hear one song versus all this other great art you have to offer. But at the same time, it's like, dude, I would just like to see him own it. Like, you're Glenn from The Walking Dead, and there's nothing wrong with that. Glenn was a beloved, one of the OG, one of the best characters to ever be on that show. I mean, hell, you could make a living just riding off that the rest of your life, and I understand if he doesn't want to. I'm not saying how someone should pursue their career, but, I I wish for the fans, Steven Yeun, if he asked, would come. Because, again, I've mentioned it several times, but for those new to the channel, if you didn't know this, the Rick, bleeding dreams he had in his last episode, the part with Sasha, because JP, I remember, because you actually weren't on that podcast. I can't remember. You were. I had to do that one by myself, the day after, and then I think you and I picked it up a few days later and did kind of a look back on it. But I remember one of your biggest complaints. You were like, "Why the hell was Sasha there?" You know what I'm saying? Like Herschel made sense, Shane made sense. Why in the hell did that? But no disrespect to Sonequa Martin Green, she owned that. That part chokes me up every time with the things she says. But it really didn't in the scope of who's influenced Rick and who's been a center point in his life. Sasha didn't really make sense. Because they wrote that with Glenn in mind. But then Steven Yeun refused to reprise the role. Now, if you can imagine Steven Yeun standing up out of the crowd of dead people and saying everything Sasha said to Rick, man, that would hit you hard.
Yeah, Steven Yeun needs to, just watch out. Pretty soon he's going to get Leonard Nimoy syndrome, like Leonard Nimoy who played Spock. He was had this huge platform after Star Trek ended. I'm not Spock. Don't call me Spock. I'm done with the character. I hate it. And then ended up not really doing much with his career after that, reprised the role for the movies and eventually just had to embrace it.
It's like you focus so hard on not being that person that you kind of lose your focus on your own career.
Yeah. I mean, you almost kind of jinx yourself,
It's almost like a full-time career, spending all your time trying to separate yourself from a character.
And a lot of it probably is frustration. Like Steven Yeun's career isn't exactly on fire right now, and he probably is trying to just be like, look, I'm not that character. I want to do other things, and I get that, but
we love you. We love you,
Steven.
Seriously, we love you, Steven. Excuse me. The thing too is, like you said, that makes because he has had work since The Walking Dead, but nothing with a spotlight like The Walking Dead. Like he's had some voice acting roles. He was in that Mayhem movie, which he did a great job. I think Steven Yeun is an awesome actor, and I just wish he would go with the flow with The Walking Dead, and other great stuff will come. He's a good actor. He's young. He's got a bright future ahead of him. But I would love to see him come back and see a Shane, Lori, Carl, and even bring back Dale with old Dale face.
Yeah, man. I wonder how he's looking these days.
I haven't seen him in a while, but I'm hoping they'll do it somehow, man. I would love to see that. But the governor is if I have to pick one villain because we already kind of saw Alpha's backstory. You could do. I guess you could do more and show more. I guess. With Alpha, there's a lot of story to tell because like you said, you could show Alpha from after they got with Beta up to before they met, Daryl and everybody. But I choose the governor. The governor would be my one character I would just be thrilled to see back on the screen.
Oh, absolutely. Same here, man. I would love to see how Woodbury got started, all the dirty deals that had to go down, just him manipulating these people right out the gate.
Well, David Morrissey has said, he's referenced those novels. He's referenced, obviously, the graphic novels, but he's also referenced the actual novels that we were talking about earlier and said that he thinks they're fantastic and there's a lot of story to tell from those, and he would love to come back and tell it. But it's just I don't want to give spoilers, but slight spoiler is, in that book, the governor is a wuss. And I could totally see that, but I'm talking it's just a straight up Father Gabriel in the beginning was just the kind like his brother and friends clear houses while he hides in a closet. I think the beginning of the book starts with him hiding in a closet as his brother and everybody are clearing out this house. And I won't go into some of that because there is a really big twist at the end that because the whole time you're going this one direction and you're like, okay, but how does this? And then it twists, and I don't think you really needed that twist. But with that said, it's still a really good book. But it's just hard for me to imagine big David Morrissey hiding in a... I don't mind them making him more fearful in the beginning and then having a realization of, I got to become this dirtbag in order to survive. But I just can't see him hiding in closets and cowering.
Yeah, I think they definitely have to tweak that a little bit. But he was just, man, he was cut out for that role. I was super skeptical at first.
Me too,
dude. We see Danny Trejo as the governor from the comics.
Absolutely.
And when we get this, dashing Southern gentleman, you're just like, all right. But he pulled it off, man.
Especially Danny Trejo now, because Danny Trejo, is not. He's getting older. He's a little skinnier. He's not as big and buff. Like that's who I see as the governor is Danny Trejo. So when they cast David Morrissey, number one, I don't think I don't watch Doctor Who, and I know he had been in an episode of two of that.
Yeah, he was on a holiday Christmas special for that.
Yeah, and it's like I don't think I really remember. I knew him in any other role. Though I do think I've went back and watched something and saw him in it and was like, I never realized that was him. Mm-hmm. But, I wasn't familiar with him as an actor. And when I saw him, I was like, what the hell? The governor's this little skinny Danny Trejo-looking dude. And cast some giant guy to play him because David Morrissey's a, stout fella.
Yeah.
But pretty much from the minute he stepped out of that damn truck with Michonne and Andrea hiding in the bushes and had the patch and well, he didn't have the patch, sorry, but he came out with the trench coat and all of that. I was like, oh, hell yeah. And then the moment after Michonne took his eye and he slides the patch on, I was like, David Morrissey's the governor.
Oh, yeah, man. Yeah, he fit it like a glove.
If you could have, that's the question we leave this podcast with. If you could have one Walking Dead villain come back, who would it be and why? Would you be with us and want to see the governor? Do you want to see more of Beta's backstory? We already get, Negan really isn't an option. I mean, you can say Negan, but I mean, we're getting a here's Negan story, which is pretty much the complete journey of Negan from beginning of the apocalypse up to where he starts the saviors, and all of that. So we're already going to get that. But other villains, do you want to see more of the Terminus people? Do you want to see more of Alpha's backstory? Do you want to see? I'm trying to think of other villains we've had. Do you want to see the prison crew spend however long they spent, locked in that cafeteria?
I feel like it'd just be a lot of playing cards and pooping in a corner.
Yeah, I feel like Tomas and Andrew were a little more than friends, if you know what I'm saying.
Yeah, I could see that too.
But do you want to see? I'm trying to think of other. I mean, we've had some. I mean, do you want to see the backstory of the wolves? The sky's the limit. Walking Dead villains. Who do you want to see the backstory of? Simon. I actually wouldn't mind. I really like Stephen Ogg, so I would not mind seeing a little bit of Simon's backstory.
Yeah.
I mean, I would like to see him from the beginning up to meeting with this, how he became like Negan's right-hand man. Because I mean, obviously, he probably had to do something to show, he was. So, I mean, really any villains. Dwight, do you want to see Dwight and Sherry's backstory? Let us know in the comments, like, what villain do you want to see in their backstory? Also, another bonus question. Which character's backstory do you want to see the most?
Ooh,
like, villain or good guy, don't matter. Which one character? And, I mean, you got that opens the list up. You got Jess from Alexandria.
I want to see her again.
I tell you, I really want to see Michonne's backstory because there was a little spinoff they had where it showed Michonne's backstory in the comics. Like it wasn't, I don't think, part of the main comic series. It was like
no, just a one shot.
Yeah, but it was so. My top, I'll tell you who I'd either like to see Rick in like as a sheriff in regular life, or I would love to see Michonne's backstory of all characters, but.
Yeah, that would be cool, kind of like a modern-day Andy Griffith show, but only, starring Rick Grimes.
Well, I would see Rick being more Barney, though. I can't see Shane.
You think Shane would be the Andy Griffith?
Shane would be like, nip it in the bud. Yeah. No, I mean, Shane's too hot-headed to be Andy. I mean, Rick would definitely be Andy, but I don't see Shane being his Barney Fife.
Yeah, Barney wasn't trying to murder people too often.
Man, that would be great. Kind of like WandaVision, but with Rick and Shane as Andy and Barney.
Yeah, now that needs to happen.
But let us know which villain would you like to see their backstory and which character's backstory would you like to see the most. Also, if you haven't, check out our Walking Dead What Ifs where we answer your questions and just ponder what if with different scenarios. One of those should be out today as well. But in the meantime, we'll see you soon, and we'll try to stay on top of Walking Dead developments as they come to us. I'm Justin.
I'm JP.
And we're the Podcasting Dead. Podcasting Dead on Patreon. Check it out. Help us support the channel. We've got to build home studios. They're not cheap.